First, I'd like to thank the organizers for the invitation to be here and give this talk. So, this is a work that I did over the last 4 or 5 years with some German collaborators, Christoph Egg, Günter Green, and Fabian Klingbeil. Let me start my talk by saying very simple things. So when you think of drops, of liquid, probably you think about the sphere, right? And the reason is that the sphere is the surface with minimum area. It's the volume body that has a minimum area, right? There are self-extension forces at the surface of the drop, which tend to minimize the area, and the result is a sphere. And now you change a little bit the physics of the problem. For example, if you add some electric charges of the same sign, some electrons inside the drop, then what you will find is that these electrons, they tend to repel each other, so they tend to go to the boundary of the drop. They want to escape from there, but they cannot. Okay? And the result is that they tend to destabilize, sometimes, the drop, and you may find something like this. Okay? The drop deforms, okay? And eventually, you have kind of explosion, this is called Coulomb explosion, so that the drop breaks into many, many smaller drops. Okay? These drops,
this is the
you see them,
data.
but they're very, very tiny.
Guy runs.
They carry a lot of charge, and the drop tries to come back to a stable situation, which is the sphere.
So, capital M.
Now, this is not only a curiosity. This fact, this phenomenon has also very interesting applications. And one of them, and this is the one I will mostly be focusing in this talk, is the so-called electrowetting phenomenon. Now, you think that the drop is not levitating like this one, but is over a flat surface, over this table, let's say. And then you subject this drop to an electric field by doing the following. So you connect a wire, okay, to a battery, okay, and below the drop, at a certain distance, you place an electrode. And you establish a difference of potential between the electrode and the drop. You see the drop here. Now, by the same phenomenon, so these electric charges, they tend to repel each other, the drop is going to spread.
Okay, we want to set up
So what is spherical cap, more or less round, is going to become also spherical cap, but flat.
So how do we learn about
Now this is interesting by applications.
manner?
One of them is the so-called electrowetting application. This phenomenon, by the way, is called Liebman effect.
First, the
It
parameter
was
is
discovered very, very long time ago.
dimensional, right?
And you can also find that there are interesting phenomena here one wants to
So we have to
understand,
be a bit careful, and
and is the formation of satellite drops. So if you look at the drop from above, and you raise the potential, so the battery is very strong, let's say, you raise your potential to very high values, you will find is the appearance of instabilities at the contact line. This is the contact line, and this is the drop viewed from above. So you have instabilities developing at the contact line, and these instabilities, they tend to create secondary drops that break up from the main drop.
Developments, we pick a particular prior,
Is
which
this a real
Laplacian operator.
sphere, or because the shape was not a
This
sphere?
is from above.
As the covariance,
No, I was thinking of that other
from the
picture you
classical
had.
point
These
of view,
wasn't.
somehow, because
This.
the Laplacian
Well,
is the,
almost a sphere.
Okay. So it's just the curvature is
as I showed
small.
earlier, in the Fourier expansion are eigenfunctions.
Yeah.
So the contact angle
Operator,
also
okay, we
changes?
have a clear understanding.
Not really.
What the
Apparently changes. There is something called apparent contact angle.
responds to
Okay, but if you look very
essentially
close,
setting some
at the end is the so-called Young's angle. We'll talk about it in a
for
moment.
each of the Fourier coefficients, right?
But
And each of
contact
the
angle,
parameters has its own.
if you look very close to the contact line, it
If
doesn't
you
change.
increase alpha,
But if it's a sphere, it has to change.
a priori you are looking for smooth.
It's not a sphere. It's not a sphere.
It's not a
something
sphere.
different. It's not a spherical cap. It's something different.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Not
I
this
will
big
go
one
back to this.
prior, okay, because it makes my life easier. I can understand.
Okay, now it's interesting. This is interesting for applications. So one of them
All right. We have the prior.
is because you can manipulate drops
So we have the
by applying electric
posterior, right?
fields. For example, if you have here different electric fields, you can
How do we learn about
create
this state space? We are integral.
induced charges in these drops,
Here,
and you can manage them to move along
we
these
are
wires.
integrability
And this is interesting as an application
argument, and this
for
is
something called gap on a chip.
the length of the window.
So it's an important
All right.
application that
Okay.
in fluid mechanics
Where we are.
was trying to do is to build very small devices of the millimeter size where you can manipulate fluids. You can create a laboratory. So you can, for example, take these two drops with different chemicals
So
and make them collide, no, and produce
Right.
some reaction.
this is not
And electric fields are very good for this.
about this problem.
Mechanical forces are very bad, okay, because usually you require very large devices, and at this very small scale, it's very difficult to manipulate fluids
There's a
with
nice paper
mechanical
by,
devices.
by Codilo and Andrew
And
Struck.
second application
They somehow
is
apply all sorts of
electronic paper.
out there.
So now imagine that you have
Simulation
pixels,
area.
okay, for example
for this
here,
problem.
and each pixel contains a drop,
Okay,
and you
so
can
there
create
are
different
couple of
colors.
filter
You don't see it, that
type
is yellow,
methods,
blue,
okay, which they
red,
invoke at
green.
some point some sort of Gaussian
and by switching on and off electric
okay,
field,
to try to
you
solve
can produce
the
electrowetting, so you can produce these drops
if I'm
to
not
spread
wrong,
or to
state of
contract,
the art in this
and you can create
problem
pixels
is
of
the
an
Raman
image.
filter.
Now this is,
It's okay, but
So far for
somehow the
applications.
problem is not
Is it
solved.
being done or somehow?
yeah,
in
that's
labs?
done, right,
Some
yeah.
approximation
Yeah, it's
involved here. So
You know, so an important technological
more or less ad hoc.
phenomenon right now.
Some
Why do you
linearization
use, how do you use it?
system involved here. The Navier-Stokes dynamics
How do you
is
use this
not-
paper?
Oh,
What
this
is the use?
These are prototypes.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
okay,
so
because you
somehow
can create,
the-
for example, TV screen,
There is an open
which is like a paper,
problem out there.
Yes.
Okay.
totally flexible.
Particular
It's a film.
It's a
many
film.
of the studies out there, they show okay, maybe you track the
Okay, well, here you have a list of applications,
uncertainties.
interfacing, microencapsulation.
There's still a
Also,
lot
it's an atmospheric science is important because
And,
it's believed that the onset of rain
As I said
is
before,
produced by the
many
Coulomb
people have
explosion that
tried
I
to
showed
solve the
before.
full Bayesian problem. When I
Electronic
say
paper,
the full Bayesian
many
problem,
others.
I mean doing some.
So now in my talk, what I will do after this short introduction, I will start by talking about a little bit of physics, which is necessary for this problem, but I will try to do it in the easiest way possible. So I will start with a static electrowetting problem. I will use this to introduce some important concepts, important energies associated to this problem.
Some attempt that has been made is.
Then I will talk a little bit about how to model dynamics with sharp interface models. And then I will go to the real side of our research, which is developing phase field models to study this phenomena, and then mathematical theory of this model.
Okay, so there is
Systems and unique solutions,
an MCM
and also I will introduce, I will present some numerical simulations,
a property that it is
and then in
prior
this time,
preserving,
I
okay?
will talk about a little bit different model,
Target, this would work
which
well.
is valid for what is called electrolyte solutions.
Of course, you have the data, so the posterior is not like the prior, so it is not certain this will
So,
work well. But at least
why
how well or bad
a
it
drop
works.
placed over a substrate,
the
on a
resolution
surface,
of the problem
solid
will
surface,
have an
in absence of gravity or with very small gravitational effects, is a
you
sphere.
achieve by preserving the
Well, the
prior.
reason
So if you use
is that you can associate
if you use a finer
the whole system, the drop,
solver of
the vapor outside, and the solid substrate, an
in
energy.
practice this will not work
Okay,
well,
this energy
exactly because
is composed
prior, but
of the surface area, of the liquid vapor interface,
improves the
which
lot
will be the drop
in recent works.
in contact with the vapor with the outside,
Here I will just compare it with
the solid vapor interface, so this will be the solid with the vapor outside, and the solid
Okay,
liquid,
and there's
which
an
will be the
answer to
surface,
Sadler. This is what I'm going to do
total
in
area.
5 minutes.
And each one is multiplied
Okay, so
by
essentially
surface
some
energies,
stuff. Somehow I feel that
surface tensions, no, which are given by these constants,
involves a
physical
natural
constants, that depend solely on the nature of the liquid, the vapor, and the solid. Okay? So for a given combination of liquid, solid and vapor, this constant will have a very particular value.
The natural ordering in the assimilation of
Now,
the data. Okay,
if I
order the data,
take into account
both in terms
that the
of
solid vapor interface,
time.
so this would be this one,
Okay, there's a natural way
is the
to
total
distribute
substrate
this
interface,
distribution.
this total area, minus the solid liquid,
Okay,
this part,
alright, there's a
and I plug this into
yes,
this energy,
natural sequence
then I
of
found
data
that
set.
up to a constant,
Okay,
which is
okay,
always the same,
do an essence.
the total energy can be written in this form.
We can try that.
So it's the liquid vapor, surface tension,
As I
gamma,
said at the beginning,
multiplied by the area of the liquid vapor interface, minus
for
this difference of gammas,
to work well.
multiplied by the solid liquid
So
interface.
one of them is that
Now, if I want to minimize this energy,
are not too
I have to
far.
find the minimum of this quantity, and
This
it's
is
very simple,
something that
an exercise
we can control somehow quite easily.
can
Alright.
propose to your
Alright, how can we
undergraduate
control it?
students
We have the ones
to show
target,
that if you assume
one
axisymmetry,
the sequence, the next
there is
one,
a second order ODE, which would be the Euler Lagrange equation associated to this variational problem,
ones, okay?
and is such that
Suppose
the surface is a spherical cup,
expression for the importance weight
and the contact angle, so this would be the angle of the interface
on the fly.
with the substrate, this is called Young's angle,
I want the temperature
has a
to be
value
such
such that
the
its cosine is equal to this difference of energies divided by this
square of
gamma liquid
or
vapor.
whatever. Okay.
So we are
This is easy.
Yeah.
We can control that.
area, solid vapor area,
And
the second
solving this
value
equation in terms of
is equal to
which temperature is
To the substrate,
one,
the total,
it involves just the weight,
minus.
not the solver of the differential equation. So it's very
okay? So now the substrate is always the same, you have always the same energy, so anti-variational problem can be written anything with a constant which is always the same.
so okay. Maybe starting from the
So now this is very simple,
sequence of distribution,
just an exercise on
some
ODEs.
extra ones.
If you consider axisymmetric surfaces, If you consider general surfaces,
Alright.
it's not so
So
simple.
we make the
Famous
evolution
variational problem,
somehow
and you can find the solution
go, right?
in this book. It's about 30
The most
pages.
important aspect is to develop the move kernels, okay?
Okay.
This is the one in the MCMC world.
Now, my point here is the fact that you can associate
Preserving
to the areas energies. Okay? And I will use this in a moment for my phase field
its
model.
effect on each of the frequencies. Okay?
Now, if you have electric field,
This is the size, the prior size of each of the
creates an energy.
periodic of things. So maybe we can use SMC adaptation to learn something about the a posteriori.
Which will be given by this quantity.
We can learn the mean, we can learn the variance. This is what I explained some slides ago.
One whole
Okay, so maybe instead of using this nice, it would be
Now,
optimal
epsilon
prior. Maybe we can
is
make
called the electric constant.
for the posterior. Okay? So here there's a step size which tries to adjust to the posterior size of each of
And
the.
E is the electric field,
Okay, that's it.
which
That's
is
the method.
minus the gradient of the potential.
So it's okay, elements, as I said. Okay, let's try to see. Okay, this is a difficult problem. Does it work?
Now, the electric constant
Okay, I have a number of specific.
depends on the materials that are involved in the problem. Okay? So each liquid has a different material electric constant, each solid has a different constant. In this case, for applications,
This is a complicated algorithm. Okay, so one thing that I found interesting is that
we will have, which is important,
useful to monitor whether this
below the drop,
whether it works. Okay. The convenient
There's an
way that I
electric-
found to do that is
that usually has a very large electric constant,
where
which is very
I
useful
apply
for
the
applications,
steps.
and which is different
Some
from the electric
is the
constant
position
here.
of the
So
particles.
here we will have some
Study a lot of the
we will have
position of
some
the
epsilon.
particles before and after the move steps. So somehow the algorithm will work well if there is enough jittering to the particles. Okay. So you
So,
can either make one.
If we want to continue to build up our variational problem,
Some summary of
what we have to do is to add,
which will give an idea
this
about how
energy,
far they are
right?
from the
but also we have to take into account the energy that is spent by the battery.
we use
Okay,
this
so
thing.
the battery, in order to keep the potential constant at the surface of the
in
drop,
terms of the
if the drop is a perfect contact liquid,
variance.
okay, needs to supply some energy, and this energy, one can show, is twice the energy that is spread, is distributed by the electric field outside the drop. Okay, so altogether, the balance of these two things is one positive quantity, given by this, one negative quantity, which is double this, given by this energy that is supplied by the battery. Altogether, your energy is this quantity, okay, this is exactly the same as this, okay, but written in terms of the capacity. Okay, the capacity is defined, the capacity is defined as the integral of the gradient of the potential to the square with the condition that the potential is 1 at the surface, the drop. Okay, this is one definition. An equivalent definition is the minimum of the gradient of V squared. Okay? Either way, the result is that you have the same energy that we had in the case of an isolated drop on a substrate minus this quantity. And a very rough approximation, this was done already by Lippmann, is to think of the fluid-solid interface together with this electrode as a plug capacitor. Okay? And if you remember in high school, you learned what is the capacity of a plug capacitor, parallel plates, at a distance d is given by this quantity, so it's proportional to the liquid-solid interface area, that is this. So altogether this scales as this, and the total result is that U tend to decrease the contact angle, so Young's angle tends to decrease. The solution is still a spherical cup, okay, under this approximation, it's still a spherical cup, but with a different Young's angle, which is smaller. So you have rough spreads to form a spherical cup with a smaller angle, right? Okay, this is very rough approximation. This is the physicist argument, let's say. Mathematically, the reality is that this angle is just an apparent angle. The real angle is the Young's angle. You go very close to the contact line. The real angle is Young's angle. It's a bit different. Okay? Anyway, this is not my point. We can discuss about it later. Okay? In reality, this is not either a spherical cup. It's something different. You can compute analytically what it is. Now, my point here was to introduce energies. Okay? So we have surface energies and we have electric energy. Now, if we look at the dynamics, So we forget about variational problem, we look just at the dynamics of the whole system. And the surface interface approximation, what you have is electric charges with a certain density rho. Okay? Poisson equation tells you that minus rho is equal to the divergence of the electric field. The electric field is proportional to the length of V with the constant of proportionality equals to the electric constant. Actually, this is a constant for a given medium. We have several media here. We have the electrode, and we have the surrounding liquid, and the liquid of the drop. So epsilon actually depends on x. Okay? It's not constant. The charges are going to move because there is convection by velocity field. So you have a liquid, inside the liquid there is a velocity field which is moving the liquid and also the charges. Okay, so you have convection, and then you have flux due to charge diffusion, and also you have drift by the electric field. Okay, this constant K is called the conductivity of the medium. So if this K is very large, you have very large conductivity, so charges move very easily. If K is small, you have very low conductivity, so it's very difficult for the charges to move.
But if you put diffusion to still get a sharp interface, you're putting linear diffusion, right?
This diffusion is piecewise constant. So it's constant
Yeah.
in the liquid, in the surrounding media, is a constant but different.
Okay. Yeah, but rho is supported on the drop.
Yes.
How do you know
Well,
that it
not
doesn't?
really, not really, no.
Oh, I see.
Depends on what is the conductivity. So for most applications, we want that the conductivity outside is very small, 0.
Oh, so you assume that 0 there is no conductivity.
Exactly,
And then you get a sharp interface.
exactly.
Otherwise, you get some kind of tail.
So you get sharp interface for the liquid-liquid interface, okay? But for the charge density, you don't get, you get tails.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and now you have a liquid. Actually, you have two liquids. You have the liquid of the drop and the liquid surrounding liquid, air or whatever it is. And the liquids have to satisfy Navier-Stokes, but in our case, since in applications drops are very small, Reynolds number is also very small, so there is an approximation which is valid physically, which is a Stokes approximation. So you kill inertia, and your system is just a Stokes system. Okay, where here I wrote the classical term, viscosity, Laplacian velocity, but in this form that will be very useful. Okay? It's equivalent. Okay, if your velocity field is divergence free, this is totally equivalent of mu Laplacian velocity. Right?
So why do you do it?
Hmm?
Why do you do it?
Because I will use it in my phase field model. Right? I will use this form. Actually, this is the symmetric part of the gradient of velocity.
Ah.
This comes into the stress tensor together with the pressure. Okay, and there is an interface boundary condition, which is that the jump of this stress tensor across the interface multiplied by the normal has to balance with the surface tension force, okay, which is proportional to the curvature. Okay, so the curvature, the surface tension, comes in the boundary condition for the Stokes system, and there are also electrostatic forces inside the drop, inside the liquid, due to the pressure of charges. And these forces, this is called the Maxwell stress tensor. Actually, you can write this as the divergence of a quantity tensor, which is called the Maxwell stress tensor. But at the end, this is the density of charge multiplied by the electric field. Okay? So, if we want to model this with a self-interface model, we have to solve.
No, I didn't understand the last part.
Yeah.
Could you show it again?
Right.
So you see that you are saying that in the equations of the fluid, there is a force acting on the fluid,
Right.
but the force only acts on the particles. Oh, but they are attached.
They are inside the liquid.
So they are attached.
Right.
It's moving the fluid because the particles have attached.
Right. There are two couplings.
Yeah.
The electric charges act as a force for a Stokes system, okay, and the charges are convected by the velocity field of the liquid.
Yeah.
So two things are coupled. So we have a Stokes system, Poisson equation for the potential, the electric potential, together with the equation for the kinetic of the motion of charges. The Stokes system, by the way, this viscosity changes from one fluid to another, so this is discontinuous too. You have boundary condition, balance of stresses with surface tension, and you have kinematic condition, that is, that the points of the interface between the drop and the surrounding media is going to move following the velocity field.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, this problem has a lot of difficulties. Let me just tell you some of them. So, to begin with, there is Navier-Stokes. You're familiar, there's a big problem with Navier-Stokes in 3 dimensions. But if we consider that there is no inertia, inertia is very small, negligible, so we take Stokes, so this difficulty is not so serious. There's a free boundary, and we have imposed the free boundary balance of stresses, including the Maxwell stresses, so those associated with the electric field. The finite conductivity also poses a problem concerning what happens with the charges across the interface, as Juan Luis said. There's a problem there too. But the two more serious problems are these two, okay? Number 4 and number 5. So number 4 is the presence of a contact line. Now this is a problem that has been a headache in fluid mechanics for 30 years, and it's called the contact line paradox. So I said before that at equilibrium, a drop is going to have a contact angle, which is called Young's contact angle, okay? Just given by the material properties of the drop, the surrounding media, and the substrate. But now, if you have a drop that is sliding, for example, a rainy day on a window, okay, you see that contact lines can move with some velocity g, right? And you can say, okay, let's think that this contact line has a contact angle, that this is not necessarily Young's contact angle, it's something different, it's an angle theta. Okay? So the contact line paradox tells you that if you solve Stokes or Navier-Stokes, either way, subject to the boundary condition that you have an interface that is moving with a contact angle theta, whatever a theta is, then this Navier-Stokes equation or Stokes equation has no solution. It's impossible to find a solution so that you have contact lines with a contact angle that is moving. Okay? For example, this paradox will tell you that it's impossible to put your hand inside water because you need a contact line that is moving in order to do that. Okay? So, Navier-Stokes forbid that. It's impossible. Now, there has been several theories to try to solve this. Nowadays, it's pretty well understood.
Because we can put the hand in the water.
We can do that.
Okay, well, thank you.
But Navier-Stokes tells you that it's impossible.
Does not
You
allow
can't.
you to do it.
Does not allow it. Okay? So, this is the efficiency of Navier-Stokes or Stokes. So what happens is that you have to take into account molecular forces. Okay, so very close to the contact line, there are huge stresses, so viscous stresses very, very large. So Navier-Stokes breaks down. So there are molecular forces that necessarily have to come into play. And in most models that people have been studying, they can come in two ways. You may have something is called van der Waals forces between the molecules of the substrate and the molecules of the liquid. Or, this is one possibility. Second possibility is that you give up on no slip boundary condition. So typically when you solve fluid equations, you impose that over the solid the velocity is equal to 0. So the second possibility, the second observation, is that stresses are so huge, so large near the contact line, that you have to give up on this condition and you have to introduce what is called Navier slip condition. And this Navier slip condition essentially tells you that there is a small length called the slip length, eta, at which the boundary condition is not b equal to 0, is that some combination between b and derivatives of b is equal to 0. Just in a very small region beta. So either way, much asymptotic expansions that have been developed over the years, many authors, so that what happens is that there is a boundary layer where these molecular forces come into play, and if you match the boundary layer with the outside drop, the outside boundary layer, the outside region, the result of this matching is the appearance of something that is called an apparent angle, okay, which is not a real angle, because at molecular level doesn't even make sense what is a contact angle. Okay? But far away, sufficiently far from the boundary layer, you have an apparent angle that, depending on whether you are advancing the contact line or receding, can have one value or another. Okay? And the fact that the angles are different when you advance and when you recede is called the contact angle hysteresis. Okay?
What's it called?
Contact angle hysteresis. Okay, so it's
But
like-
again, how does it fit with the result by Stokes saying that there are no solutions? You are saying now that there is a solution with the apparent angle.
when you modify the boundary condition, you introduce Navier
Oh,
slip.
because you put Navier slip conditions
Right, exactly.
with apparent angle.
Exactly. Or when you introduce van der Waals forces, you do match asymptotics and you find a global solution to the problem.
And do you get one of these films that go away?
Exactly. Because of it. Right. Okay, so our model has to have this into account. Okay, so we want to be realistic.
So the angle at microscopic level is fixed, but
Yes.
at the macro level it changes. Is that what you're saying?
And then, exactly, right. When you have a stationary solution, it's Young's angle. That's it. Micro and macro level. When the contact line is moving, at the micro level, it doesn't even make any sense to talk about angle, okay, because you have molecules. But when you match with the outer region, sufficiently far, you have an apparent angle that you can compute analytically, okay? And it's different when you are advancing than when you are receiving. Okay? So our model has to have this into account. This is an important property that we have to keep. And problem number 5 is that you may have topological changes. Okay? So your drops can collide to produce a larger drop, or the other way around. You may produce forces so that a big drop can break into smaller drops. Okay? So you have coalescence or breaking. Okay? So your model has to take this into account. Now, in a self-interface model, this is very difficult to do, okay? Because once you try to break topology, so once your domain tries to go from simply connected to multiply connected, there's a singularity going through, okay? And you have to somehow study how this singularity looks like to make analysis, and so far, for Navier-Stokes, this is not done analytically. There are no theorems, exact theorems, there are asymptotics, numerics, but there are no theorems telling you how this process is going on. But still, we want to solve the problem. So what we did was to introduce phase field modeling that somehow hides these difficulties. So phase field models introduce a new length scale that allow you will see now how, to go through this difficulty and allow you also to produce moving contact lines. And the main idea is to replace,
It's okay.
the main idea is to replace your self-interface by the so-called diffuse interface.
I apologize with the audience.
Yeah. So you replace your self-interface by the diffuse interface by introducing phase field function phi, so that phi is essentially equal to -1 for liquid 1 inside the drop, and is equal to 1 outside the drop. Okay? And now you construct the model by replacing energies. You replace the liquid vapor area multiplied by gamma liquid vapor, so this part of the energy that I was introducing in the static case, by this Gibbs-Landau energy. Okay? So this is called free energy. So you have free energy associated to this function phi, so this phase field, proportional to 1/2 delta gradient of phi to the square plus 1 over delta W of phi, where W of phi is a double wall potential, okay, with zeros at -1 and 1. So at this value and this value. Okay? Delta, if you look at this, has length scale. Okay? So delta is going to be the typical size of the diffuse interface. Okay? So when delta goes to 0, there are theorems tell you that this energy can be very well approximated by this energy. Okay? So this is one part of the energy. The second part of the energy is the gamma solid vapor minus gamma solid liquid multiplied by the solid liquid, so this area, and this is replaced by the integral of some function interpolating between minus this factor plus this factor, when phi is equal to minus 1, this is minus 1, when phi is equal to 1, this is 1, okay? And now, when we do this, we introduce a free parameter, gamma 0 here, that we have to fix. And the way to fix it is to look what would be the minimizer of this thing. And the minimizer looks like.
The small phi, what was the contact angle?
No, sorry. What is more phi?
Your sign of p at the end.
Phi is
Phi is the phase.
the phase field.
So large phi.
Yeah,
is
sorry.
smaller
Yes,
than-
What's omega? What is omega?
Omega is the drop. No, omega, sorry. Omega is everything. Drop and the outside.
And then you integrate over the boundary of omega or on omega there?
Yeah, right.
And,
Okay.
Here.
and you just took sine, just the interpolating function, doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It
Can
has
be
nothing to
whatever.
do with the
Can be whatever
angles.
going from minus 1 to 1.
Yeah.
We took sine. It's the simplest one. Yeah, the boundary of omega, sorry, yeah, is this. Okay, now, so you look, what is the Euler-Lagrange associated to this functional? So you find a second order, nonlinear, ODE, in one dimension, okay, and the solution is this function, e power tangent of x divided by delta. Now, if you plug this function into the energy, what you find is essentially that the whole energy is the energy associated to this function. This would be the value, the profile of the function phi along this direction, multiplied by something that approaches very closely the liquid vapor interface area. Okay? So altogether, you can relate this integral to something that approaches when delta goes to 0 to the liquid vapor interface multiplied by a constant that allows you to match this with this. Okay? And the result is this number here. Gamma liquid vapor is equal to this number. It just comes from the functional form of this function phi multiplied by gamma naught. And now the function phi has to have an equation. And the most natural equation that people introduced, actually Cahn-Hiller introduced in 1958, is the Cahn-Hiller equation. Okay? So this is an h minus 1 gradient flow. And what you do is to take the first variation of the functional. So this would be it. You call this chemical potential for physical reasons. Compute the gradient, multiply by a function that depends on phi called the mobility function. So for phi equal to 1 may have some value, for phi equal to minus 1 may have another value, maybe constant too. Okay. And then compute the divergence. So in this way you get a fourth order, because here you have gradient, divergence, gradient, Laplacian. So you have fourth order parabolic PD. Okay. And you have also velocity field, you have Navier-Stokes. So you have also convection by velocity field. Now, this would be the way, or the main idea behind coupling Navier-Stokes with a phase field. Now, we want to do more than that. We want to open.
Sorry, I don't understand. So if we look at the limit, phi should solve the transport equation with the v. So we don't have this force term.
Sorry.
If you look at the limit when this, when delta is 0,
Right.
then the phi is solving a transport equation.
No, because you have here derivatives of something with a jump.
There is one over delta
You have deltas here.
in the W prime. This is why you select.
No, but I mean, naturally, in the limit, when we have.
But the limit 1 over
we don't
delta is
have-
infinity.
No, but when we have, we don't have diffuse interfaces, it just transports with the fluid, no?
But it has this term that is also adding the fourth order term.
No, but he has a point. Actually, you have a point here. Yeah. So you are right. In the limit, you have convection, just motion by velocity field, right? But keep in mind that here you have x divided by delta. So when you compute derivatives, here in the limit you have kind of Dirac delta functions, right? But of what? of something, which is the chemical potential, which tends to be homogeneous inside the drop and outside the drop. Okay? So altogether, formally, in the limit, we will have the transport equation. Okay. Actually, if you want to look how this is justified completely, there is this paper by Abels, okay, where this thing is done. Okay. Actually, these are some references. So this idea of coupling Navier-Stokes with phase field comes from physical literature in the 90s, all these people. This has been quite well justified by recent papers, by Abels, Roger. In the particular setting of electrowetting, in 2 dimensions, there are papers by Bertocci, Nocchetto, and others, collaborators. And when you introduce electrokinetic equations, of the form of Max Planck equations, I will talk about this at the end of the talk, then you have papers in the sub-interface case by Rubicek, Smook. So my goal now is to couple phase field with Navier-Stokes with electrokinetic equations, equations for the motion of charges. Okay? Now this kind of coupling has to be done very carefully, okay? Because if you don't do it carefully, you may violate some physical laws. For example, you have to be careful to keep the laws of thermodynamics, first and second law. Okay? You have to be careful about keeping Galilean invariance of the problem. Okay? So there are some physical constraints one has to be really careful about. And the way to do the coupling is to use some variational principle developed by Onsager. This comes from irreversible thermodynamic theory, and this theory, this principle, is telling you that if you write the total free energy of your system in terms of the fluxes, mass flux, momentum flux, heat flux for another problems where you have heat exchanges, etc. If you write your free energy in terms of fluxes and you introduce a dissipation, which is a quadratic form of the fluxes, then the variation with respect to the fluxes of this total quantity has to be equal to 0. Okay. Now let me go very quickly on this. So in our case, what we have to do is to introduce free energy, that is the free energy associated to the phase field, the bulk phase field, the fluid surface interface energy, so this integral by the sine of pi over 2 phi, the free energy associated to the electric field, this thing, okay, we can read it like this, where this whole displacement vector is given by this quantity, and a free energy associated to the density of charge. So you have associative fluxes, which is the stress tensor of the fluid, the derivative of the phase field, the flux associated to the phase field phi, the flux associated to the electric field, and the velocity field on the surface, on the substrate. Okay? Now we introduce a dissipation in this form, which is quadratic form, with material parameters, mobility, some parameter alpha, now you will see what it is, conductivity, electric conductivity, viscosity of the fluids, and slip length. And by solving the variational problem, what you find is the fluxes. So there is a flux of phase field, phi, which is proportional to the gradient of the chemical potential. So this is the same as we have here. Okay. You have a flux associated to the electric field, which is the drift by the electric field, minus the diffusion. Actually, the diffusion divided by the conductivity is a constant. This was described by Einstein. Okay, so we write this constant equal to lambda. So this would be the flux due to diffusion. And then you have a flux over the substrate, so here, which is given by this expression. Okay, so alpha multiplied by the time derivative of phi over the substrate is equal to this quantity. And now this quantity, if you integrate over the substrate, what you find is exactly the contract angle hysteresis. Okay, so this together with this gives you the condition with Young's angle when you integrate over the substrate, and this that comes together with the time derivative of phi is what is giving you, due to the fact that you have partial slip, is what is gives you the contract angle hysteresis. So quite naturally, applying the variational principle, we get the contract angle hysteresis for our problem. And also you have the Nagel condition that now it is like this. Okay, so the tangential velocity multiplied by the slip length plus this that has to do with the derivatives of the velocity, and now you have an extra term that comes from because of the phase field, have to balance. And at the bulk of the fluid, you have Navier-Stokes equation. Now you have two forces. This force is the force that was coming because of the electric charges, so rho gradient of V, rho multiplied by the electric field, and you have an extra force. Now this force is the representation at the bulk of the force that was coming from self-extension. Self-extension in the self-interface limit was coming at a boundary condition. So jump in the stress of the fluid equals to the self-extension force. Okay. Now, since you don't have a self-interface, you have a diffuse interface. Now your force is not distributed over the surface; it's distributed over the bulk of the fluid, and comes into here. Very formally, when delta goes to 0, this mu, the chemical potential, approaches the curvature of the surface. Gradient of phi, since phi jumps from -1 to 1 at the surface, gradient of phi goes to the Dirac delta. Okay? So in the self-interface limit, this would be something proportional to the Dirac delta, or something that you can put in the boundary condition for the stresses. So you have.
So also, I mean, this term for the transport of phi, I mean, the additional divergence of m phi, I mean, this is well, I mean, probably it's in good relation with the first equation. When you test the first equation with V, so you get the a priori bound.
That's what I want to do now.
Yeah.
You will see. Okay, and now, because of, by doing this coupling between the different fields, the variational principle, we get an extra thing, which actually is something known in physics, this is called ponderomotive forces. Okay, has to do with the jump in the dielectric constant. Okay, so altogether, you have an equation for the fluid, Navier-Stokes, or Stokes in Euclidean inertia. You have transport of charges, so the kinematic equation for the charge. You have an equation for the phase field, and you have Poisson equation. Now, what can you do about this problem? First thing, try to show that this problem has a solution, a decent solution. So this is what we did. So in this particular setting, where you have the fluid contained in a domain omega, boundary condition for the electric field, for the potential, U bar at the boundary of omega star. And here, between omega and omega star, you may have jumps in the electric constant. You may have an electric constant which is different from the constant inside the liquid. So in this setting, we saw that there exists at least one weak solution defined globally in time for this problem. So the proof is quite standard, so I'm going to go a little bit quick on this. So you define the appropriate spaces, for example, for the velocity in a Stokes system, with the typical spaces H1, okay, divergence free. So you take for the density rho, for the phase field, and for the chemical potential H1, and for the electric potential H01. So the weak formulation of the problem, so you take all the equations, multiply by this function, integrate by parts, is given by this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 integral identities. The way we did this, which was to couple all the fields by using a variational principle, implies the existence automatically of an energy identity. Okay? So we have an a priori bound, an energy inequality, and here you can recognize the time derivative of the free energy and the integral of these quadratic forms, these quadratic things, depending on the fluxes, which is the dissipation. Okay? So the time derivative of this and this, which is the total free energy, plus the dissipation, equals to some right-hand side that you can control very easily. Okay? And this is the key point. So we can use now a discrete version of the system, so we can expand all the unknowns in some basis and truncate to some level n. So this is a Galerkin approximation. So we can write the velocity, the density, the phase field, the chemical potential, the potential, as superposition of eigenfunctions of different spaces, and write a discrete problem. Okay? Where you have a matrix, no linear thing, that depends on the truncated solutions, phi h, rho h, multiplied by this vector, equals to some function that depends on the unknowns. Okay? Since you have an energy inequality, it is quite simple to prove that this matrix M is regular. You can invert it to this function on the right hand side is Lipschitz. So by Picard-Lindenhoff theorem, you can show that the discrete problem has a global solution, has a local solution in time for any interval of time. So you can construct solutions for any one of these discrete systems. If you want to pass to the limit, you can to make n go to infinity, you need some compactness. Okay? So you can also prove that this time derivative is a fractional time derivative between 0 and 1/2. So this time derivative of the unknowns is globally bounded for any n. Okay, and you can now use Rowley-Lyon's lemma. Okay, so you have some control uniform in time derivatives, fractional time derivative, but it's enough, so that you can pass to the limit, and you can show that your solutions converge, or you have subsequences that converge to a weak solution of the full problem. Okay, so you have a globally well-defined weak solution. Now, the only tricky point here is that you have to use compensated compactness, because the convection terms, typically in the weak formulation, gives you cubic terms. So you have velocity, gradient of rho, or gradient of phi, multiplied by this function. Okay? So these cubic terms are kind of nasty to control these problems, but you can use compensated compactness. That is, the fact that the variance of B is equal to 0, so you have the variance-free velocity field, coupled with the gradient of something, to show that actually you have the convergence that you need. And you can find, finally, for your limit solution, the energy inequality that tells you eventually that your weak solution is such that all these quantities are bounded. So that is, rho is in infinity for the interval of time, any interval of time to L2, and so on.
So sorry, so you took finite dimensional subspace
Right.
and constructed solutions for that, and then it has to be.
Exactly. So you use compactness, so you use an estimate for time derivatives, okay, and then pass to the limit. Okay, so we have globally defined weak solutions, but they are pretty weak. No? For example, B is just L infinity L2. So the velocity, the norm in L2 of the velocity is just bounded. Okay, the gradient is in L2. Okay, so we don't get much regularity, and then if you want to prove uniqueness for this problem, you need to get extra regularity. Okay, because in our problem we have many nonlinearities. So when you try to prove uniqueness, you take the difference of two possible solutions, and for this difference, you find all kind of cross terms that you have to control. Okay? So nonlinearities are dangerous for uniqueness, so we have to get some extra regularity. So I will do that. Okay, we show these numerics at the end. And prove the following theorem. So let this phase field, velocity, density, potential be a solution, as we showed right now, that it exists, a weak solution, and dimension equal to 3. Then the gradient of V, that from the weak solution was only such that the energy is bounded, this is gradient of V. So this means is L infinity L2, H1. Okay? V is L infinity H1. So the gradient of V is L infinity L2. So you can get something better. So it's L infinity L6. You can get something a bit better. The density of charge that was L infinity L2 now is L infinity L6, plus some control on the gradient. The phase field, now you can prove that has up to 4 derivatives bounded in L2 in time and in space. And the velocity is L infinity from the interval in time to W to 3 halves. So from the energy we just had that the velocity was L infinity L2, now we have L infinity W to 3 halves. In 3 dimensions, this is almost L infinity, also in space. Okay? So the velocity is just a little bit below L infinity space-time. But this will be enough for uniqueness. Now, how to prove this? Now, we use the result. The main thing, the starting point, is to study the Poisson equation. And the main difficulty is the fact that the dielectric constant, so in our equation, this would be, in this notation, this function mu, we have a jump from here to here, and also from the drop to the Rosen-Wingen. Okay? So you have jumps in this function mu. But we can use this theorem by Elsner, Rebeck, and Schmidt, that that tell us that this operator is an isomorphism between this space, W01Q, into W-1Q. Okay? Since at the right-hand side of our Poisson equation we have the density of charge, now we have to find what is the regularity that we have for the density of charge and to identify with some W-1Q space. Okay? And if you do that, you find that our charge was L infinity L2, so due to Sobolev embedding, this is W1Q with Q satisfying this inequality. Okay? And if you look at the dual space, what you find is that the density actually is W minus 1,6. So if this is W minus 1,6, then this is W16. So this means that your potential is W16. The gradient of the potential, the electric field, is L6. Okay? So you jump from L2 to L6. And this is what we need. This is enough. Because now what you do is to multiply the equation for rho, for density of charge, by some power of rho, get this identity, estimate the right-hand side using that the gradient of E is in L6, and what you find is that you can control, by Cronquist inequality, this quantity, this integral, provided that Q is smaller or equal than 5. So let's take the best case, Q equal to 5. So we have control of the density in L6, and infinity in time, L6 in space, and now, with this potential and this density of charge, we go to Stokes equation, and we look at the right-hand side. Now, Stokes equation is such that you can estimate two derivatives more of the velocity and one derivative more in pressure of the derivatives that you can control in the right-hand side, in the force. So by using this, now we have to look at the force, which is mu gradient of phi, rho gradient of V, what is the regularity expected. Gradient of V is L6, rho is L6. So altogether, this product is L3 halves in space, and infinity in time. Okay? And this you can control by using the Scott-Kelvin inequality, so that altogether, the force acting on a Stokes system is L2, L3 halves. Okay? And now we come here, if this is L2, L3 halves, so this is W0, 3 halves, so you get for the velocity 2, 3 halves. W, 2, 3 halves, and infinity in time. Okay. Again, this means that the velocity is almost bounded, just below the limit of being bounded. Now we go to the phase field equation, we multiply by Laplacian of phi, integrated by by Laplacian square of phi, integrated by part. This is for one, okay? You can do it rigorously taking into account all the boundary conditions and everything. So you test by Laplacian square of phi, integrated by parts, okay, get this right hand side, and now use the fact that your P is almost bounded to get this inequality, okay? Where you have here the LP norm with P as large as we want by taking epsilon sufficiently small, okay? So this is bounded. Now you apply over this Cronquist inequality, and then you find that the Laplacian of phi is bounded in time. So the L2 norm of Laplacian of phi is bounded in time, and Laplacian square of phi is L2 in time, and L2 in space. And finally, in order to prove uniqueness, we have enough regularity, so we take two possible solutions, compute the equations for the difference, we get many nonlinearities, but we can control all of them by the regularity results we just proved. Okay, and eventually you get this inequality for the difference between the phase fields, phi1, phi2, and the difference between the densities. And also you can get a similar equation for the difference of the velocity fields, apply Cronquist inequality, and find that the difference, so this norm, in time is less or equal than the initial value of the norm multiplied by this function that can grow as t gets very large, but is multiplied by y0. If y0 is equal to 0, this means that the difference is 0 at any time. Okay? So you get uniqueness of this globally defined weak solution. Okay? So we have a globally defined, quite regular, weak solution to the problem.
Well, can you say that this solution is not really weak, but what they call strong? Because we're proving regularity enough to say that everything involved are functions, right? Or no?
The problem is that our
In other Stokes, you say that strong solutions are unique. Are you more or less trying to say that you get strong solutions and strong solutions are unique?
okay, the thing is that we didn't go much further in regularity. So for example, for velocity, we cannot prove that is C2, the velocity field.
Yeah, but strong solutions is just that the equations make sense as in L2.
Yeah, well, you have solutions defined globally in time that belong to these spaces. Okay? So such that
So let's see.
all these quantities are bounded.
So the only question is, are the time derivatives of these things functions? Maybe not.
Exactly. That's
Oh,
what
I
we
see.
know.
So they are not strong solutions.
Right.
You prove uniqueness for regular weak solutions.
Exactly. We cannot guarantee at this point whether the velocity is bounded into the interior dimensions. Might not be bounded. So let me just finish very quickly with a different model, which actually is sometimes more realistic physically. If you talk with people doing experiments, they tell you that actually what you do in order to create a very good conductor, very good conducting fluid, for example, water, if the water is pure, this type is not a good conductor. Okay? The reason water is a good conductor is because usually it has some impurities inside, for example, salt. Okay? So in reality, what you have inside the fluid is some particles of salt, for example, ordinary salt, sodium chlorine, that inside water dissolves into positive ion and negative ion. Okay? So what you have at the end inside the liquid is a collection, let's put it this way, a collection of positive ions and negative ions, okay, which are moving around. So if you want to be realistic with your models, you have to put Navier-Stokes, phase field equation, but you have also introduced different equations for rho 1 and rho 2, where rho 1 and rho 2 are the densities of positive and negative charges. And also you have to consider the possibility that you have neutral species. So these positive and negative, they recombine to form, from time to time, a neutral species. These are taking into account all these possible reactions. Okay, so this is more general model, more complicated, but we can repeat the same thing, going very quick on this. Okay, and now the extra regularity that you need comes from the fact that your density satisfied or is bounded L infinity in time in this L log L Orlik space. Okay, and being in this space is sufficient to improve a little bit the regularity of gradient of V. The gradient of V that from the weak solution is just L infinity L2 can be upgraded to L infinity L2 plus, where plus is a small number. Now, interestingly, in order to prove our theorem, we used a model which is a bit different. And now, in the chemical potential, instead of writing Laplacian, we write ds Laplace, P Laplace, okay, which is interesting. If you are interested in why we do this, I can discuss later on this. So, then I go to my conclusions, and then I show you some movies of the numerics we did. So first conclusion is that we introduce a phase field model in order to solve a free boundary problem where you have many physical effects which are interconnected to each other. Okay? And in order to do that, in a physically reasonable way, you have to invoke physical principles. An important principle in this context is the Onsager variational principle. Okay? And the good thing, the nice thing, that we found is that doing right the physics implies that the mathematics become much more easy. Why? Because automatically you get an energy estimate. And this is what you need in order to prove global existence of weak solutions, regularity, and so on. Okay? So doing right the physics implies good mathematical results, usually. So we prove existence of weak solutions and also the uniqueness of more regular solutions. And finally, phase field models in general provide a simple way to overcome some of the main difficulties that one has to deal with interfacial problems. Okay, like those orthogonal changes or the presence of moving contact lines. So in order to convince you that this is the case, let me show you some numerics that we did. It's not visible. is a drop on a substrate. Okay. Now this is in 3 dimensions, 2 drops that connect, and then because of the fluxes that we created with charges inside the drop, then disconnect. Okay, so you have the 2 topological changes: connection of the 2 interfaces and disconnection. Please play it again. Here you can see that you have moving contact lines. When the contact lines move, the contact angle is different depending on whether you are advancing or receding.
This connecting line is just a numerical artifact, or can you see it in practice?
No, it's a reality. Now the point with phase field models is that you are always introducing a length scale, delta, okay? That if you are careful, you have to do it so that it is below all physical length scale which are relevant for your problem. So if you write this delta in such a way, you take this delta in such a way that its value is smaller than the typical length scale where this phenomenon of connection disconnection happens, okay, then it's okay. You can assume, you can expect that what you are reproducing is a physically real thing. So, I mean, this happens. You take a drop, you break it, and you find a bridge between the 2 drops, and this is what you see in mathematics.
But then once the bridge is very narrow, you lose accuracy.
Exactly. Once the bridge is very narrow, once your length scale is below delta, phase field model is not valid.
And then maybe there are these small droplets happening.
Exactly. Or you may have stochastic terms. I mean, the physics can be very complicated at that level.
Can you have comparisons of what is model with the free boundary model? Numerical
Well,
comparisons?
Not here. Not that I can present you now.
Okay, yeah,
I have in the paper. I can show you later.
and they are good.
Yeah, well, in general, yes. All the limitations to these models. Okay, let me show you this last movie. So here we have an example of everything I said. Okay, so the initial data here consists of 2 drops, one with positive charge. So at the very beginning, all the positive charge was concentrated here. So this has run a little bit. So the charge has spread quite quickly because of conductivity of the liquid. So here you have positive charge, negative charge, and here you have an electrode which has a net charge, net positive charge, while here and here you have some imbalance. So what will happen is that because of attraction of these 2 oppositely charged drops, they will coalesce. Since you have a little bit more charge here than here, there will be some net charge, and then the whole drop will be attracted here to the electrode, and then on the electrode it will spread, so we will have a contact line. Here you have coalescence, change of topology, and now you have the presence of a contact line, which is moving and eventually reaches an equilibrium. Yeah, this is the same thing in 2 dimensions. So this is the end of my talk.
Questions or comments?
What is the numeric term?
These finite elements. Now, what we did to prove the existence of weak solution was to make a Galerkin approximation. So think that these Galerkin elements are just finite elements.
But the thing is that in the proof you took finite dimensional, you proved a priori bound, then by compactness you passed the limit, then at the end you showed that uniqueness. And uniqueness is something very strong. Actually, I didn't see this before for this. But I mean, if you have uniqueness and for small time scales, I mean, but it doesn't depend for each time.
You can
Probably
take
you should
a
have
D-
some Banach fixed point, I mean, contraction mapping or something. Then if you have this contraction, then for numerics it's also very good.
you mean to prove convergence of the numerical scheme to the
Yeah.
solution?
I mean, because you have uniqueness, I mean, because your proof is based on compactness, then you prove uniqueness. But if you have uniqueness, then probably you can do it in
Actually, this was,
using the assumptions that you have when you have
Mhm.
uniqueness, then probably you can also
actually,
run a-
yes, this was done not by me, but one of my co-authors, Gunther Blum, for a problem which is quite similar to this one, with some differences, right? In order to prove that the numerical scheme converges to the actual solution. And the spirit of the proof, I believe, was something like this. So I can show you the paper.
Is it possible to say that if you start with some, say, positive density at the beginning, then the
So it's
density remain
positive.
positive?
For the first model, no. For the second model, so this last model,
Because there is the logarithm in the second model, so
Yeah.
makes sense.
for this model, which actually, as I told you, is physically more general, more relevant, let's say. Okay, so, yeah. For this model, you have here this equation, right, for the positive and negative charges densities. Now you have this a priori estimate where you have rho log rho, right? So this is what helps you to control the positivity. Okay, so
And
you
the
can
other one, there is no chance to say that.
we call it proof positivity, global positivity.
Is it physically important or?
Yeah, it is.
or
I mean, numerically, you hardly see that there are negative densities, okay? But physically, you are right. It's an important property. Yeah, yes.
if I can, which is the form of this function that you have in front of the chemical potential in the, so this m of phi
Ah, M of phi.
is degenerate when phi is called.
Some bounded function, whatever you want. Bounded, just bounded.
Now
Now,
you get estimates on mu if this function goes to zero.
no, yeah, okay. It's uniformly bounded above and below. Doesn't go to zero. The mobilities are always positive, strictly positive.
Okay.
Now there are numerical tricks. You know, if you want things to work, then mobilities is good to be chosen in a certain way. Everything that has to do with the phase field is kind of artificial, let's say. It's a device that you introduce in order to avoid dealing with a SAF interface. Okay? So you can define the things in the most convenient way. For example, in the chemical potential, you have Laplacian of phi plus the derivative of the fuel potential. Right? But you can replace Laplacian of phi, for example, by a Laplacian. You can do that. Okay? You can replace, or you can take for the function for the mobility m of phi, whatever you want, provided it's bounded. Okay? So all these things, you have the freedom, or in other words, you can expect that in the limit when delta goes to zero, when the diffuse interface goes to the SAF interface limit, they don't really matter.
So the function phi is intended to approach to be a minimizer for the Ginzburg-Landau equation,
Yes.
at least at the beginning when you start. But after some time, it continues to be a good approximation, or it may degenerate somehow.
Exactly. So, right. So in these problems, you cannot expect that your solution is valid at arbitrary long times, because you have diffusion at the end. So the equation for phi is a diffusion, is a fourth order diffusion equation. So eventually the SAF interface, the diffuse interface, will not be of size delta. Can spread, okay? So everything depends on the time scale of the phenomenon you are observing compared to the time scale of diffusion of the phase field phi. And we typically scale with delta. So you take delta sufficiently small, everything is okay. For the finite time that you are looking at.
Other questions or comments? Let's thank the speaker again.